Hannah and Paul were sitting in their sitting room having dinner and also sharing some bottles of wine. Immediately after dinner, Paul stood up to clear the plate while Hannah asked if he would want to watch a movie. But this wholesome moment was cut short when a thud hit their front door. A faint creak of glass followed. A feeling of unease ran through Hannah. A primary sense that something was wrong. She turned her head, catching the glimpse of movement through the dark hallway. "Paul?" she asked, her voice uncertain, but Paul didn't respond. He was still in the kitchen. Another thud hit, this time it was louder than ever. All of a sudden, the door burst open with a violent force. Four masked men, all dressed in black, stormed into the room. Hannah's breath seized for a moment. The men were shouting, ordering them to stay down, to stay quiet. It was all happening all so fast. The sound of footsteps echoes as one of the men pushed Paul against the kitchen counter, knocking over the wine glasses. The force of it made the room spin. "Don't move. Don't even breathe," one of the men shouted, his voice muffled by the mask. His hands were shaking, but there was no hesitation in his eyes. The gun in his hand trembled as he pointed it toward Paul, who froze, raising his hands up in surrender. Hannah couldn't breathe. Her body was freeze to the spot, her mind racing, trying to process what was happening. Money. Jewelry. Now, another robber yelled, pointing his weapon at her. His eyes were wide, darting around the room, frantic with fear. Hannah felt like the world had slowed down. Time felt warped, stretched out of place. Everything seemed distant, except for the terrifying reality unfolding before her. She heard Paul's voice, low, calm, trying to reason, trying to negotiate. But the robbers didn't listen. They were beyond reason. I don't have the combination to the safe." Paul's voice was trembling. "Please, just take what you want and leave." The men exchanged glances, their eyes dark, and one of them took a step closer to Hannah. "Shut up, and do what we say. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Another robber reached for her, his hands grabbing her wrists roughly, yanking her toward the living room. Her pulse raced, her chest tightening. She struggled to break free, her nails scraping against his arm, but it was no use. His grip tightened like a vice. She screamed, the sound caught in her throat. But it was swallowed by the noise. The others were ransacking their home, flipping through drawers, taking anything of value. They didn't care about what they broke, what they destroyed. All they wanted was the money. Hannah's mind was in a blur, her heart racing. She tried to focus on the sound of Paul's voice, tried to listen for any sign of him, but it was drowned out by the fear. Then, just as she was being shoved toward the hallway, the worst part came, the part that she couldn't erase, that would haunt her forever. One of the robbers grabbed her by the hair, pulling her into the hallway. He slammed her against the wall, and suddenly she was pinned, her body frozen with fear, her thoughts scattered. She struggled against his strength, but it was no use. There was nothing she could do. She was at their mercy. She heard the man laugh. It was cruel, a low, guttural sound. He ripped at her clothes. Her screams were drowned out by the cold, calculating actions of the robbers. She fought, kicked, but her mind couldn't process what was happening. The terror gripped her throat, and the only thing she could do was close her eyes, hoping it would end quickly. But it didn't. She was roughly and mercilessly raped by the robber. By the time they finished, the house had been ransacked. The robbers left in a rush, taking whatever they could carry. Paul was left there, tied up in the kitchen, his face pale, his body shaking as he struggled to break free. But Hannah was left broken, physically and emotionally, lying on the cold floor of the hallway, gasping for breath, her heart still racing. Weeks after the robbery incident, Hannah and Paul couldn't recover from it. Every night Hannah goes to bed crying and hoping it never happened. This disrupted her intimate relationship with Paul. Paul was yet to come to full realization that his wife was raped by armed robbers, and having sex with her would bring back memories of the whole night incident, and for that, their intimacy life begins to nosedive into the deep. For months, Paul didn't touch Hannah. Just greetings and some light moments. No intimacy. Hannah realized this and began to complain. "Hannah, please," Paul's voice was tight, his hands shaking as he stood by the bedroom door. His eyes were wide, his face pale, but there was a clear distance between them, as if something invisible was keeping them apart. Hannah reached out toward him, her fingers shaking. "Paul, I need you. Please, just hold me." But Paul didn't move. He didn't even look at her the way he used to. The warmth that used to flow between them was gone. Instead, he stood there, frozen, eyes filled with something she couldn't name, fear? Guilt? "I can't," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I can't be with you like this." Hannah's throat tightened. "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice breaking. "I'm still your wife, Paul. What happened, what they did to me, it doesn't change that." Paul turned his head, refusing to meet her eyes. His breath quickened. "I'm sorry, I don't know how to fix this. But I can't," his voice trailed off, as if the words were too painful to speak. "Can't what?" Hannah's mind raced, the confusion turning to anger. "You think I'm broken now? You think that because of what happened, I'm no longer your wife?" Paul stepped back, as if her words were too much for him. "I didn't want this, Hannah. I didn't want it to happen to you. I wanted to protect you, but I couldn't. I failed you." Hannah's heart shattered. "You weren't there, Paul. You weren't there when I needed you most." She felt her voice rise, but it was too late. The truth was out. Paul's face twisted with pain. "I should have been. But I wasn't. And now? I don't know how to look at you the same way. I can't touch you like that. I can't." Hannah's knees buckled, and she collapsed onto the bed, tears streaming down her face. The man she had loved, the man who had promised to always be by her side, was standing there, unable to touch her, unable to love her. Hannah was terribly broken that night, and she told him she wants a divorce. Paul stood there unresponsive. "A divorce?" "Yes," she answered. "You have made me know that I'm not fit to be called your wife because I was raped by an armed robber." Paul woke up the next morning and thought over what the wife had said. Divorce has never favored the billionaires. His properties will be divided. His name will be on the news. He has tried suppressing the armed robbery incident, this thing he doesn't want to have another reason to be on this news. At night, Paul called on Hannah. "Dear Hannah, I'm sorry for acting foolish towards you. I'm sorry for not being masculine enough to protect you. I love you and I want you by my side. I don't want to lose you." Hannah's red eyes widened and then tears dropped. "I love you too, Paul. I know it's not our fault that I was raped. The doctors have confirmed that I have no complications. He has also advised that we both enroll for a therapist session." The next week, Hannah and her husband enrolled for therapist sessions and were able to fix their intimate relationship back.
Thank you for watching the Billionaire Lovetale channel. Please, do like, comment and also subscribe to our channel to enjoy more interesting billionaire life stories.